Title of the book is called What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy by James Paul Key. He is the Mary Lou Fulton Presidential Professor of Literacy Studies at Arizona State University. He started to think about video games when his 11-year-old son was young. He would sit next to him as he played video games. He was intrigued and decided he wanted to help him play. He started from Winnie the Pooh to Pajama Sam and No Need to Hide when it's dark outside. In the game, the character must solve problems in the land of darkness in order to meet darkness and tame him, so that player can learn they no longer need to be afraid of the dark. He played the whole game so he could help his son through it, but instead his son said, "Stop bossing me around," that he could figure it out himself. Video games helpful or hurtful? Is it a waste of time? He states, "I'm mainly concerned with games in which the player takes the role of a virtual character, many through an elaborate world solving problems, or in which the player builds and maintains complex entities like armies, cities, or even whole civilization. When people learn to play video games, they're learning a new literacy." So with his son, he was surprised how long the game was and how challenging it was, even for an adult. But yet his son was willing to put in the time and face the challenge and enjoy it. So when she decided to buy an adult game and try. Positive effects of video games. It helps with social and problem-solving skills. Like in the book he plays World of Warcraft and Sims. Beneficial effects in regards to violence. So in the book he states that teens use violent games as a way to manage feelings or anger, or as an outlet for feeling of a lack of control. So in the book he plays World of Warcraft. In the game, a player can have multiple identities and skills to interact with other characters and people throughout the virtual world. So in our real world would be the same depending as the place you are, or at and people who are around. He realized video games turn out to be a good way to say about learning what he had said about reading and thought and thinking a book. He states, like reading and thinking, it is not just an individual act, but a social one. The game gets better and more sophisticated all the time. So not all video games are good. So negative effects. Spending a lot of hours on video games can cause headaches due to video motion. Like television, if a child is passively consuming television, then it is not necessary for any great use. If a child is raised in a culture of violence or abuse, may consume media, not to mention their real-world interaction causing confusion. He states he played a game called Pikmin. The player must collect the spaceship's lost parts scattered throughout the planet, while relying on his spacesuit to protect him from the poisonous atmosphere. He said this was not an educated game, or it was using any critical thinking. So video games make players think like scientists. Let players be producers. Good video games offer players strong identities. Learning a new domain, whether physics or furniture making, requires learning to see and value work in the world in new ways, in the ways in which physics or furniture makers do. He states that it can engage people with education, power forms of learning, forms that we could spread in various guises in schools, workplace, and communities. In video games, players learn to view the virtual world through the eyes and values of a distinctive identity or one they themselves have built from the ground up. Video games allow players to customize the game to fit their learning and playing styles. Games also have different difficulty levels, and good games allow problems to be solved in multiple ways. So to conclude, research has shown that when learners are left free in a problem space, they often hit on creative solutions to complex problems, but solutions that don't lead to good hypotheses for later, even easier problems. In a good video game, problems are well ordered so that earlier ones lead to hypotheses that work well for later, harder problems. So basically in his book, he states that not all video games are good, like Grand Theft Auto, like there's no critical thinking involved, there's no problem solving. But in World of Warcraft, he likes the idea that there are different identities and skills for each character, And depending on where you're at in the world, we can relate with outside of the world. So which, at different levels, it gets harder, and it causes, it makes the child think, critical thinking on what powers to use and what people to ask for help, etc. So yes, so if there's a way that we can make video games part of today's society with the students, so that way the students can be intrigued, they would be more involved in learning.